Emily Rodriguez stood at the edge of the naval shipyard, her small frame dwarfed by the massive aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt towering before her. At 22, she had graduated summa cum laude from the Naval Academy just 3 months prior, her naval ring gleaming on her finger as she clutched her orders. The salty breeze carried the sounds of organized chaos, sailors shouting commands, machinery humming, and the rhythmic clanging of metal against metal. Admiral Harrison Blackwood approached with his usual swagger, his weathered face showing decades of naval service. His uniform was pristine, ribbons and medals creating a rainbow across his chest. Behind him trailed a small group of senior officers, their expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed amusement. The Admiral's reputation preceded him, a traditionalist who believed the Navy was no place for women, especially not in positions of real authority. "So you're the little girl they sent to help with the carrier operations," Admiral Blackwood said, his voice dripping with condescension. He looked Emily up and down dismissively, his eyes lingering on her slight build. "I suppose they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel these days. Tell me, sweetheart, have you ever even seen an aircraft carrier up close before today?" Emily's jaw tightened, but she maintained her composure. "Sir, I'm Lieutenant Rodriguez, and I've been assigned to assist with the pre-deployment systems check. I have my orders here." She extended the crisp white papers, her voice steady despite the insult. The Admiral barely glanced at the documents. "Orders or not, I don't have time to babysit academy brats who probably can't even change a light bulb without supervision. This isn't some college experiment, little girl. This is the real Navy, where real work gets done by real sailors." Several junior officers within earshot shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between Emily and the Admiral. Word of his behavior had spread through the ranks before, but nobody dared challenge someone of his stature. The Admiral had connections reaching all the way to the Pentagon, and crossing him was considered career suicide. "With respect, sir," Emily replied, her voice gaining strength, "I graduated first in my class in nuclear engineering and systems management. I believe I'm qualified for this assignment." Admiral Blackwood let out a harsh laugh that echoed across the deck. "Qualified? Listen here, sweetheart, I've been running ships since before you were born. I've seen countless academy graduates come and go, thinking their fancy degrees make them sailors. You want to prove yourself? Fine. I bet you can't even start this carrier's engines without help." The challenge hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown down. Emily felt every eye on her, waiting to see how she'd respond. The Admiral's smirk widened as he crossed his arms, clearly expecting her to back down. Little did he know that Emily Rodriguez had spent 4 years preparing for exactly this kind of moment, and she had no intention of letting anyone, Admiral or otherwise, diminish her capabilities. Emily accepted the Admiral's challenge with a calm nod that surprised everyone present. "I accept your bet, sir. What are the terms?" Her voice carried a quiet confidence that seemed to catch Admiral Blackwood off guard for just a moment before his arrogant smirk returned. "Simple enough," the Admiral declared, his voice booming across the deck. "If you can successfully start this carrier's main engines and bring all primary systems online within the next hour, without any assistance from my crew, I'll personally recommend you for the Advanced Tactical Operations Program. But when you fail, and you will fail, you'll request an immediate transfer to supply logistics where you belong." The gathered officers exchanged glances, some looking uncomfortable with the Admiral's blatant disregard for proper protocol. Supply logistics was considered a dead-end assignment, far from the excitement and prestige of carrier operations. It was clear the Admiral intended to humiliate Emily and make an example of her. "That seems fair," Emily replied, though inside she felt a mixture of anger and determination. She had studied the Theodore Roosevelt systems extensively during her final year at the Academy, writing her thesis on nuclear-powered carrier operations. While she had never actually started a carrier before, she understood the theoretical principles better than most. Admiral Blackwood gestured grandly toward the ship. "After you, Lieutenant. Let's see what 4 years of taxpayer-funded education really bought us." His tone suggested he already considered the matter settled. Emily walked toward the carrier's access ramp, her mind racing through the startup procedures she had memorized. The nuclear reactors would need to be brought online first, followed by the steam generators, then the main engines. Each step required precise timing and monitoring of multiple systems simultaneously. One mistake could result in anything from a simple shutdown to a catastrophic failure. As she climbed the ramp, Emily could hear the Admiral addressing his officers behind her. "This should be entertaining. Maybe after she gives up, we can get back to real work. I've got a conference call with the Pentagon in 2 hours, and I don't want to waste any more time on this nonsense." The words stung, but Emily channeled her frustration into focus. She had faced skepticism and condescension throughout her academy years, but she had never let it stop her from achieving her goals. Her professors had recognized her exceptional aptitude for nuclear engineering, and she had spent countless hours in simulators preparing for exactly this type of scenario. Upon reaching the bridge, Emily was greeted by Commander James Mitchell, the ship's executive officer. His expression was sympathetic but cautious. "Lieutenant, I'm not sure what game the Admiral is playing, but I want you to know that not everyone shares his views. However, I can't offer you any assistance without directly disobeying his orders." "I understand, sir," Emily replied. "I wouldn't want to put you in that position." Emily made her way to the engine control room, her heart pounding but her resolve unwavering. The massive control panel before her displayed hundreds of gauges, switches, and digital readouts. To an untrained eye, it might have seemed impossibly complex, but Emily saw patterns and logic in the arrangement. She had spent months studying similar layouts in academy simulators. She began by reviewing the current system's status, noting that the ship was connected to shore power, and all nuclear systems were in standby mode. The first step would be to initiate the reactor startup sequence, a process that normally took a full team of experienced nuclear technicians working in coordination. Emily would have to manage it all herself. Taking a deep breath, she activated the primary reactor control systems. The familiar hum of electronics filled the room as displays came to life. Emily's fingers moved across the control panel with practiced precision, initiating the carefully orchestrated sequence of steps that would bring the massive nuclear reactors to life. Meanwhile, on the deck above, Admiral Blackwood was holding court with his officers, regaling them with stories of previous encounters with unqualified personnel. "I give her 15 minutes before she comes running back up here, probably in tears," he said with a dismissive wave. "These academy kids think they know everything, but reality has a way of teaching them humility." Unknown to the Admiral, several crew members had quietly positioned themselves where they could monitor Emily's progress on their handheld devices. Word was spreading throughout the ship that something unprecedented was happening in the engine room. The young lieutenant wasn't just attempting the startup procedure, she was executing it flawlessly. In the control room, Emily watched as reactor temperatures began to rise steadily. The nuclear fuel was beginning to achieve criticality, and steam was starting to generate in the primary loops. Every indicator showed green, and all systems were responding exactly as they should. Emily allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction as she moved on to the next phase of the startup sequence. The steam generators were now producing enough pressure to begin turning the massive turbines that would drive the ship's propellers. Emily carefully monitored the steam pressure and temperature, making minor adjustments to maintain optimal conditions. The sound of the turbines spinning up filled the engine room, a deep, powerful rumble that resonated through the entire ship. Admiral Blackwood felt the vibration through the deck plates and frowned. "What's that noise?" he demanded, looking around at his officers. Commander Mitchell, who had been discreetly monitoring the situation, stepped forward with barely concealed excitement. "Sir, I believe Lieutenant Rodriguez has successfully brought the main engines online," he reported. "All primary systems are showing green across the board." The Admiral's face turned red with disbelief and anger. "That's impossible. She's been down there for less than 45 minutes. There's no way." Emily Rodriguez emerged from the engine control room at that moment, her uniform still crisp despite the intensity of the past hour. She walked directly to Admiral Blackwood and stood at attention. "Sir, the USS Theodore Roosevelt's main engines are online and ready for operations. All primary systems are functional and within normal parameters." The Admiral stared at her in stunned silence for several long moments. Around them, the ship hummed with the power of fully operational nuclear reactors and steam turbines. There was no denying what had just happened. This young woman had successfully accomplished something that typically required a full team of senior technicians. How, he finally managed to ask, his usual bluster completely absent. Emily reached into her pocket and withdrew a small, worn piece of paper. "Sir, this is my academy thesis abstract. I spent 8 months studying the Theodore Roosevelt system specifically, including detailed analysis of startup procedures, emergency protocols, and system optimization. I also completed over 200 hours of simulator training on identical systems." She paused, then held up her hand to display her Naval Academy ring. The gold band caught the light, and the distinctive anchor and eagle design was clearly visible. This ring represents 4 years of intensive study and preparation. I didn't earn it by accident, and I didn't receive it as a participation trophy. I earned it through dedication, hard work, and mastery of naval engineering principles. Admiral Blackwood's expression shifted from shock to something approaching respect, though his pride clearly prevented him from admitting his mistake openly. The other officers watched in fascination as their seemingly infallible commander struggled to process what had just occurred. "The bet," Emily continued, her voice respectful but firm, "was that I couldn't start the carrier's engines without assistance. I believe I've fulfilled my part of the agreement. Now, about that recommendation for the Advanced Tactical Operations Program." The Admiral looked around at his officers, all of whom were watching him intently. He had made the bet publicly, in front of witnesses, and Emily had not only met his challenge but exceeded it. To back down now would damage his credibility far more than admitting he had underestimated her capabilities. "Yes," he said finally, his voice quiet but clear. "I'll have the recommendation prepared by tomorrow morning." Emily nodded professionally. "Thank you, sir. If there's nothing else, I'd like to begin reviewing the tactical systems for tomorrow's exercises." As she walked away, the Admiral stood in stunned silence, watching her retreating figure. For the first time in his career, he had encountered someone who had not only challenged his assumptions but proven them completely wrong. The young lieutenant had demonstrated not just technical competence, but the kind of calm professionalism under pressure that defined the best naval officers. Commander Mitchell approached cautiously. "Sir, if I may say so, that was quite impressive. Lieutenant Rodriguez clearly has exceptional capabilities. Admiral Blackwood nodded slowly, his mind still processing the events of the past hour. "Indeed," he said quietly, "indeed she does." The news of Emily's successful engine startup spread through the ship like wildfire. Sailors who had witnessed the challenge shared the story with their shipmates, and soon the entire crew was buzzing with excitement. It wasn't just that a junior officer had accomplished something remarkable. It was that she had done it in the face of open skepticism and condescension from the highest-ranking officer on the ship. In the enlisted mess hall, Petty Officer First Class Marcus Washington was regaling his table with details of the encounter. "I'm telling you guys, I've never seen anything like it. The Admiral was so sure she'd fail that he didn't even stick around to watch. Then when the engine started up, you should have seen his face." Across the ship, in the officers' wardroom, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Peterson was discussing the incident with her fellow department heads. "What impressed me most wasn't just her technical skills, but how she handled herself under pressure. The Admiral was clearly trying to intimidate her, but she never lost her composure." Meanwhile, Emily was in her assigned quarters, finally allowing herself to process what had happened. The adrenaline was wearing off, and she felt a mixture of exhaustion and satisfaction. She had proven her capabilities, but more importantly, she had stood up for herself and all the other women who would follow in her footsteps. Her phone buzzed with a text message from her academy roommate, Lieutenant Jessica Chen, who was stationed on the West Coast. "Heard through the grapevine that you made quite an impression today. Proud of you, M." Emily smiled as she typed back, "Just doing my job. Though I think I might have made a few people reconsider their assumptions about academy grads." The next morning brought new challenges and opportunities. True to his word, Admiral Blackwood had prepared the recommendation for the Advanced Tactical Operations Program. When Emily reported to his office to receive it, she found him in a markedly different mood than the previous day. "Lieutenant Rodriguez," he began, his tone formal but respectful, "I want you to know that your performance yesterday was exceptional. I may have initially questioned your qualifications, but you've clearly demonstrated that my concerns were unfounded." Emily stood at attention, unsure how to respond to what seemed like an apology from someone who rarely admitted mistakes. The Admiral continued, "I've been in the Navy for 32 years, and I've seen a lot of changes. Some of them have been difficult to accept, particularly regarding the integration of women into combat roles. But officers like you are proving that capability has nothing to do with gender and everything to do with preparation, dedication, and competence." He handed her the recommendation letter. "This program will challenge you in ways you can't imagine. You'll be working with some of the most advanced naval systems in the world, and the margin for error is zero. Are you prepared for that level of responsibility? Emily looked him directly in the eye. Sir, I've been preparing for this my entire life. I won't let you down. Admiral Blackwood nodded approvingly. I believe you won't. Good luck, Lieutenant. As Emily left his office, she reflected on the dramatic change in their relationship. 24 hours earlier, he had dismissed her as a little girl unfit for serious naval work. Now, he was personally recommending her for one of the most prestigious programs in the Navy. The transformation hadn't happened because she had demanded respect. It had happened because she had earned it. The Advanced Tactical Operations Program would indeed prove to be the most challenging assignment of Emily's career. Located at the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island, the program brought together the Navy's most promising junior officers for intensive training in advanced warfare tactics, strategic planning, and leadership development. Emily's first day at the program began with a briefing from Captain Robert Hayes, the program director. As she entered the conference room, she was surprised to find herself the only woman among the 12 selected officers. The other participants were all men, most of them from traditional naval backgrounds with years of sea experience. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Hayes began, then paused and smiled at Emily. Or should I say, officers, welcome to the Advanced Tactical Operations Program. You are here because you have demonstrated exceptional potential for leadership in naval warfare. Over the next 6 months, you will be challenged intellectually, physically, and emotionally. The curriculum was indeed demanding. Emily found herself studying everything from advanced missile defense systems to international maritime law. The days began at 500 with physical training and ended well after midnight with strategic planning exercises. Each week brought new simulations, war games, and theoretical scenarios designed to push the officers to their limits. Initially, some of her fellow officers seemed skeptical about Emily's presence in the program. Lieutenant Commander David Thompson, a submarine warfare specialist, made several comments about diversity quotas and political correctness during their first week. However, Emily's performance in the tactical simulations quickly silenced such criticism. During a particularly complex scenario involving multi-platform naval warfare, Emily demonstrated an intuitive understanding of system integration that impressed even the instructors. Her ability to coordinate nuclear-powered vessels, aircraft squadrons, and missile defense systems in real time earned her the respect of her peers and the attention of the program leadership. Captain Hayes pulled her aside after one especially challenging exercise. Lieutenant, I've been running this program for 8 years, and I've never seen someone grasp complex tactical concepts as quickly as you do. Your background in nuclear engineering gives you a unique perspective on naval systems integration. Emily felt a surge of pride but maintained her professional demeanor. Thank you, sir. I've always believed that understanding the technical foundation of our weapons systems is crucial for effective tactical employment. As the weeks progressed, Emily's reputation within the program continued to grow. Her fellow officers began seeking her input on technical matters, and she found herself emerging as an informal leader within the group. The same qualities that had enabled her to start the aircraft carrier, thorough preparation, calm under pressure, and deep technical knowledge, were serving her well in the tactical arena. The transformation in her relationship with Lieutenant Commander Thompson was particularly notable. During a joint exercise involving submarine and surface warfare coordination, Emily's suggestions for optimizing communications protocols between the different platforms proved crucial to their success. Afterward, Thompson approached her with obvious respect in his manner. "Rodriguez, I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "I had some preconceived notions about why you were here, and I was wrong. You've earned your place in this program and then some." Emily appreciated his honesty. "Thank you, David. I think we all bring different strengths to the table. Your submarine warfare expertise has taught me a lot about underwater tactical considerations." The midpoint evaluation of the program brought both challenges and recognition. Emily ranked first in her class in technical systems knowledge and tactical innovation, but the evaluators noted that she needed to develop her leadership presence and communication skills. The feedback stung initially, but Emily recognized it as accurate and constructive. She began working with a communication coach and volunteered to lead more group exercises. Gradually, she learned to project confidence and authority while maintaining her collaborative approach. The combination of technical expertise and improved leadership skills made her an even more formidable officer. As the program entered its final phase, Emily faced her most significant challenge yet. The capstone exercise would simulate a large-scale naval conflict in the South China Sea, with participants taking on senior leadership roles in a multinational task force. Emily was assigned as the tactical operations coordinator, responsible for integrating the efforts of multiple battle groups across hundreds of square miles of ocean. The scenario was designed to test every skill the officers had developed during their months of training. Enemy forces would employ advanced anti-ship missiles, submarine warfare, cyber attacks, and electronic warfare. The defenders would need to coordinate aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines, and allied forces from multiple nations, while maintaining supply lines and protecting civilian shipping. Emily spent weeks preparing for the exercise, studying intelligence reports, weather patterns, and the technical specifications of every vessel and weapons system involved. She developed contingency plans for dozens of possible scenarios and worked closely with her fellow officers to ensure seamless coordination. When the exercise began, Emily found herself in the Tactical Operations Center, surrounded by displays showing the positions of friendly and enemy forces across the vast expanse of the South China Sea. Radio chatter filled the air as ship commanders reported their status and requested instructions. The complexity was overwhelming, but Emily felt a familiar sense of calm settle over her. The first phase of the exercise went smoothly, with Allied forces successfully establishing defensive positions and maintaining secure communications. However, the enemy forces soon began their assault, launching coordinated attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. Emily's screens lit up with incoming missile threats, submarine contacts, and electronic warfare jamming attempts. Drawing on her technical background, Emily quickly identified the most critical threats and began coordinating defensive responses. She directed missile defense systems to intercept incoming attacks while simultaneously organizing counterstrikes against enemy positions. Her ability to understand the technical capabilities and limitations of each weapon system proved invaluable as she allocated resources and prioritized targets. As the exercise intensified, Emily demonstrated the leadership skills she had worked so hard to develop. When communications were partially disrupted by enemy jamming, she quickly established alternative communication protocols. When one of the Allied commanders became overwhelmed by the complexity of the situation, she calmly provided guidance and support while maintaining overall tactical coordination. The exercise concluded with a successful defense of the strategic waterway, though not without significant simulated losses on both sides. During the debrief, Captain Hayes praised Emily's performance as exemplary and noted that her technical expertise and calm leadership had been crucial to the mission's success. "Lieutenant Rodriguez," he said during the final evaluation, "you have demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership and technical competence that the Navy needs for future challenges. Your ability to integrate complex systems while maintaining strategic focus is remarkable." Emily felt a deep sense of satisfaction as she prepared to leave the program. She had not only completed one of the Navy's most challenging courses, but had excelled in ways that would open doors to even greater opportunities. The shy ensign who had been dismissed as a little girl by Admiral Blackwood had transformed into a confident, capable officer, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The graduation ceremony was attended by senior officers from throughout the Navy, including Admiral Blackwood himself. When Emily's name was called as the program's distinguished graduate, she walked across the stage with quiet pride. Admiral Blackwood was among those who congratulated her afterward. "Lieutenant Rodriguez," he said, his voice filled with genuine respect. "You have exceeded every expectation. The Navy is fortunate to have officers like you." Emily saluted crisply. "Thank you, sir. I won't forget the lesson you taught me about earning respect through performance." Admiral Blackwood smiled. "I think you taught me a few lessons as well, Lieutenant. Good luck in your next assignment." As Emily left the ceremony, she reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. From that first challenging encounter on the aircraft carrier to her success in the Tactical Operations Program, she had proven that determination, preparation, and competence could overcome any obstacle. The naval ring on her finger no longer felt like a symbol of potential. It had become a badge of proven capability. Her next assignment would take her to the Pentagon, where she would work on developing new tactical doctrines for integrated naval warfare. It was exactly the kind of position she had dreamed of since her academy days, and she was ready to tackle whatever challenges it would bring. The story of Lieutenant Emily Rodriguez had become something of a legend throughout the Navy. Young women entering the service heard about the officer who had started an aircraft carrier to prove her worth and gone on to graduate at the top of the most prestigious tactical program in the fleet. Her example inspired others to pursue their goals regardless of the obstacles they might face. Years later, as Captain Emily Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her own command, she would often think back to that pivotal day when Admiral Blackwood had challenged her capabilities. His skepticism had been the catalyst that drove her to prove not just her own worth, but the value of judging officers by their performance rather than their appearance or gender. The lesson had shaped her leadership philosophy and continued to influence how she developed the next generation of naval officers. The Naval Academy ring on her finger had indeed stunned Admiral Blackwood, but not in the way he had expected. It had represented not just 4 years of education, but a lifetime of preparation for the challenges that lay ahead. Emily had worn it with pride then, and she wore it with even greater pride now, knowing that she had proven herself worthy of everything it represented. In the end, Admiral Blackwood's bet had backfired spectacularly. Instead of humiliating a young officer and putting her in her place, he had created an opportunity for her to demonstrate her exceptional capabilities. The little girl he had dismissed had become one of the Navy's most respected tactical experts, and her success had opened doors for countless others who would follow in her footsteps. The transformation in Admiral Blackwood himself had been equally remarkable. The encounter with Emily had forced him to confront his own biases and assumptions about women in the military. He had become an advocate for gender equality in the Navy, often citing Emily's example when discussing the importance of judging officers by their capabilities rather than their demographics. The story served as a powerful reminder that true leadership comes not from position or privilege, but from preparation, competence, and the courage to stand up for what is right. Emily Rodriguez had possessed all of these qualities, and her Naval Academy ring had been the symbol that announced her readiness to prove them to the world. As she had walked away from that first encounter with Admiral Blackwood, Emily had known that she would face many more challenges in her career, but she had also known that she possessed the knowledge, skills, and determination to overcome them. The Admiral's bet had been just the beginning of a remarkable journey that would take her to the highest levels of naval leadership. The USS Theodore Roosevelt continued to serve as a symbol of Emily's early success, and she would often visit the ship when her duties brought her to the same ports. The crew members who had witnessed her historic engine startup would proudly tell the story to new sailors, ensuring that the legend of Lieutenant Rodriguez would live on in Navy lore. Emily's story had become more than just a tale of individual success. It had become a symbol of the changing Navy and the importance of embracing diversity and inclusion. Her achievement had proven that the military's strength came not from maintaining traditional barriers, but from recognizing and developing talent wherever it might be found. The naval ring that had once seemed like a simple piece of jewelry had become something far more significant. It represented not just Emily's personal journey, but the broader transformation of the Navy itself. When Admiral Blackwood had first seen it on her finger, he had failed to recognize its true meaning. By the time he understood its significance, Emily Rodriguez had already begun to change the course of naval history. The impact of Emily's story extended far beyond her individual career. Her success had inspired policy changes at the highest levels of Navy leadership, leading to more opportunities for women in combat roles and greater emphasis on merit-based advancement. The tactical innovations she had developed during her time in the advanced program had been adopted fleet-wide, improving the Navy's overall effectiveness. Admiral Blackwood's initial skepticism had inadvertently created one of the most powerful examples of female leadership in modern naval history. The bet he had made in arrogance had backfired in the most spectacular way possible, demonstrating the dangers of underestimating someone based on superficial characteristics rather than proven capability. Emily's Naval Academy ring had indeed stunned the Admiral, but not because of its beauty or craftsmanship. It had stunned him because of what it represented: the culmination of years of rigorous training, the mark of technical expertise, and the symbol of a new generation of naval officers ready to meet the challenges of modern warfare. As Emily looked toward the future, she knew that her journey was far from over. The Navy continued to evolve, and new challenges would require innovative solutions and strong leadership. Her ring would continue to serve as a reminder of how far she had come and how much further she was prepared to go. The story of Admiral Blackwood's bet had become a cautionary tale about the dangers of prejudice and the importance of giving everyone the opportunity to prove their worth. Emily Rodriguez had not only won that bet, she had used it as a springboard to achievements that exceeded everyone's expectations, including her own. In the years that followed, Emily would often reflect on that pivotal moment when she had stood before Admiral Blackwood and accepted his challenge. It had been a defining moment in her career, the point where she had chosen to stand up for herself and prove her worth rather than simply accept dismissal and discrimination. The Naval Academy ring on her finger continued to catch the light as she worked, a constant reminder of the journey that had brought her to prominence in the Navy. It had stunned Admiral Blackwood not through its appearance, but through its meaning, the mark of an officer prepared to meet any challenge with knowledge, skill, and unwavering determination.